Our next speaker will be me. I thought it would be cool to kind of show how open source software for GIS and open data can be used for something that's not really that practical. but kind of cool. So I'm a lifelong ocean enthusiast, particularly surfing and scuba diving. And I was always on the look for a good website for weather information. There used to be a really cool website based in La Jolla that had buoy data and wave forecast raster data, but for some reason it disappeared, and I was left with there's many sites, but some of them were just text. And other ones, pretty much, they just focus on individual spots at a time. And I really wanted this thing that covered like the whole Bay or all of California. So I found the incredible Senku site, which is really awesome, but it has way too much data than I needed, and just wasn't practical for what I might use. So I figured that I was gonna have to do it myself. So I went out and I purchased a Raspberry Pi, which is a little computer that's basically as powerful as a mobile phone. I installed Linux, a version of Ubuntu Linux on it, and then it comes with Python, but I added the libraries, Pandas, which is for data frames for numerical manipulation, things like that. Beautiful Soup, which is a library for scraping websites. And then GeoJSON, which is a library for creating GeoJSON files, which the front end could use. I also installed Xtide, which is a open source project that comes with its own little web server for if you send it a request, it'll send you a little image of tide forecast for a certain area. And a funny thing is I showed this to my family. I practiced on my family last night, and my daughter, who's 6, was very upset that I was hoarding Raspberry Pi in my garage and not sharing any with her. She really was. And then she asked me if I was working with pandas. I had to disappoint her. So these are 2 Python scripts. These do the most of the work for what I wanted to do. The one on the left, your left, is for swell. And it's basically going to the NDBC website, which for some reason they create a text file, pulls that text file, bring it into Pandas, Pandas parses it, and the GeoJSON library turns that into a GeoJSON file, which then is stored on the Raspberry Pi. The one on the right is the same thing, but for weather stations. I pull weather data, wind, whatnot, turn it into a GeoJSON file. The front end, the client side, back then, Windy, I used Windy. Back then, Windy used to allow you to use their API for free. They stopped doing that, but they liked my project and they grandfathered me in, so I can still use it. Windy is based on Leaflet JS, which is an open source web mapping JavaScript web mapping API. And then the way this is pulled together is the client sends a request to my Raspberry Pi, which is sitting in my garage, to pull these GeoJSON files off and then create this map. And I would like to, I can do this, I'd like to show you a live view. So the website, if anyone is interested, it's surfwx.seaspatial.com. And so this is live. It's pulling those JSON files, which I get from NOAA, and creates the leaflet creates the markers. Click on one of the buoys, and you get buoy information. This is up to date as of 12/30. So every hour or so, the server pulls these data, creates a new file, and for the wind data, it's every 20 minutes or so. I've got some. There we go. So sometimes the wind data is not always up to date, but this is the weather station at Moss Landing Marine Labs. You get the wind speed and direction and temperature, which is not really useful. Also, there's the tide data, and there's a little X here that shows you what time it is. So this is all pulled live whenever you go to the page. And then finally, I added an overlay of the sea dip map, so you can see the swell size. Okay. Now, how do I go back to the command tab? Yeah. Cool. So in the future, I'm going to do away with Windy because they don't let me do anything with it any longer. And I'm going to use straight leaflet, Mapbox, or open layers. Mapbox is not so much open source, but it's based on leaflet anyway. And there is like a free tier. And then I want to bring in the Copernicus Marine data store is incredible, as Naria said. And they offer web mapping services that I can just add to the browser and have the wind and swell prediction up for the next 10 days, I think, for waves. And then eventually I would like to use machine learning to predict the best spot based on the conditions. Thank you. Any questions? Sure.
Do you have any usage statistics, like how many people are using your site?
Not many.
Doesn't matter though, right?
I mean, I created it for myself, and I try to get my friends to use it. There's probably about 10 or so hits per day. You know, you can see at the times, usually in the morning or the night before, you know, just to check out what the waves are going to be like.
Were there specific windy models that you chose like that? I know there's always been
Well, that's the thing is with the, you know, now that it's not open anymore, I can only have wind. And so I can't use, like Windy is a really cool website, but I have to pay to use their layers, which they're just pulling from the European Union anyway, and you can just bypass all that by going to the Copernicus Marine Data Store, so which is open and free.
Are there any historic, like, do you archive any? I was just curious what the swells look like, say, during some of the atmospheric rivers, some of that.
I don't, but that would be cool, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there's the hindcast data you can always look at.
Yeah.
Which is also on Copernicus. Because yeah, it would be cool because there's, I think, 36-foot swells during that period, which was a record for the buoy offshore here. Yeah. All right.
How long did it take you to build all of this? Like, how much time?
In hours of just that, probably hundreds. You know, it's just, well, it's the problems were like the X-Tide was finicky. You know, Google all of a sudden for Chrome stopped letting you use non-secured websites. And so my Raspberry Pi was not secured. And so I had to figure out a way to get that to use HTTPS, so it's secured. Just bits and pieces of things that just took time. I mean, actually, like now, if I had to do it all over again, I could probably do it in a week. You know, but the learning process and, you know, and all that.
I'm wondering if any of this is available on like GitHub or anywhere for people to access.
You know, I have a GitHub account. You know, I just wasn't sure if people would be interested, but yeah, that's actually a great idea because I have the GitHub account. I can just put it all up there. Yeah, that's a good idea. Thank you.